This modification was so dangerous that the Pentagon tried to ban it. In 2011, Israeli engineers proposed changes to America's most classified fighter jet that military officials called impossible and too risky. The modifications were forbidden, but Israel built them anyway. And what happened next shocked the entire world. Iranian generals couldn't believe their eyes. Russian defense experts were left speechless. Even America had to admit they were wrong. Today, we're revealing the forbidden F-35 upgrade that broke every rule and changed warfare forever. What you're about to hear was classified until recently. The Israeli F-35 Iodir isn't just a fighter jet. It's a weapon so advanced that it terrified America's own military leaders. They tried to stop it. They said it was too dangerous. They were dead wrong. Picture this. It's 2010. And Israeli defense officials walk into a Pentagon meeting with a proposal that makes American generals turn pale. They want to completely gut the most expensive military project in history and rebuild it their way. The response was immediate and harsh. Absolutely forbidden. But here's the shocking truth. Israel did it anyway, and what they created changed everything. The story starts with a problem that seemed impossible to solve. Iran's nuclear facilities sit 1,500 kilometers from Israeli borders. Standard F-35s can only fly 1,100 kilometers on internal fuel. Every military expert said the same thing: impossible to reach without aerial refueling. But aerial refueling meant slow, vulnerable tanker aircraft that Iranian missiles could easily destroy. Israel looked at this problem and said something that shocked military planners worldwide. We'll just make the F-35 fly twice as far. American officials laughed. Then they realized Israel wasn't joking. If you think Israel's military innovation is incredible, type yes in the comments below. What happened next was unprecedented in military history. Israel demanded modifications to the F-35 that the Pentagon had explicitly forbidden. They wanted to rip out American electronic warfare systems and replace them with Israeli technology. They wanted to add massive fuel tanks that could compromise the aircraft's stealth. They wanted to install weapons that had never been tested. Richard Janai from the Pentagon's Defense Security Cooperation Agency publicly warned that these modifications would be very costly and probably not in the best interest of any nation. Translation: don't even think about it. But Israel had leverage that no other country possessed. They had signed a $20 million agreement in 2003 that made them a security cooperation participant in the F-35 program. This gave them rights that even America's closest allies didn't have. The negotiations were brutal. American officials worried that approving Israeli modifications would open floodgates for other countries demanding their own changes. The F-35 program was already the most expensive military project ever, costing $1.7 trillion. One wrong modification could destroy the entire program. Israeli negotiators played hardball. They reminded Americans that Israel faced existential threats that no other F-35 operator confronted. While other countries bought F-35s for power projection, Israel needed them for survival. The breakthrough came in July 2011, when something extraordinary happened. The Pentagon, for the first time in F-35 program history, said yes to forbidden modifications. But they attached conditions that were stricter than any military contract ever written. Every Israeli modification had to be approved by Lockheed Martin. Every change had to be tested by American engineers. Every upgrade had to prove it wouldn't compromise the aircraft's core capability. Israel agreed to all conditions. They had no choice. In 2012, Lockheed Martin received a contract unlike any other in aviation history. They were ordered to help Israel modify America's most classified aircraft using foreign technology. Pentagon officials were terrified, but the contract was signed. What Israel built next defied every rule of aerospace engineering. They created the world's first stealth fighter with modular electronic warfare systems. The standard BAE Systems AN/ASQ239 suite was completely replaced with Israeli Elbit Systems technology specifically designed to penetrate Russian S-300 and S-400 missile systems. This wasn't just an upgrade, it was electronic warfare revolution. The Israeli system could jam enemy radars while simultaneously gathering intelligence from hundreds of kilometers away. It could identify, track, and neutralize multiple threats simultaneously. No other aircraft on Earth possessed these capabilities. But the fuel system modifications were even more shocking. Israeli engineers solved a problem that American designers said was impossible: how to add massive fuel capacity to a stealth aircraft without destroying its radar signature. They developed two revolutionary systems that broke every rule of stealth design. The first used 425-gallon drop tanks that could be jettisoned with their mounting pylons. When attached, these tanks gave F-35s intercontinental range. When dropped, they restored full stealth capabilities. It was engineering magic that shouldn't have worked. The second system was even more incredible. Israeli engineers created 800-gallon conformal fuel tanks that became part of the aircraft's fuselage. These tanks were covered with the same radar-absorbing materials as the rest of the aircraft, making them completely invisible to enemy sensors. American aerospace experts said this was impossible. The engineering challenges seemed insurmountable. Adding that much fuel would change the aircraft's weight distribution, flight characteristics, and electromagnetic signature. One mistake could turn the world's most advanced fighter into an expensive failure. Israel Aerospace Industries and Elbit Systems spent years solving problems that had never been encountered before. They used supercomputers to model electromagnetic signatures. They tested materials in chambers that replicated battlefield condition. They redesigned fuel systems from scratch using revolutionary approaches. The results shocked everyone, including America's top military engineers. Israeli modifications actually improved the F-35's performance in multiple areas. The conformal fuel tanks enhanced the aircraft's aerodynamics. The new electronic warfare systems provided capabilities that American designers hadn't imagined. By 2019, Israel had completed initial design studies for both fuel systems. The timeline was aggressive. They promised full operational capability within 2 years. Military experts worldwide said it couldn't be done. They were wrong again. Israeli F-35s received another forbidden upgrade that terrified Pentagon officials: a completely redesigned computer architecture. The main mission computer was rebuilt with plug-and-play capabilities that allowed real-time integration of new weapons and sensors without American approval. This meant Israel could adapt their F-35s to new threats immediately, without waiting for Pentagon bureaucracy. They could install new missiles, add advanced sensors, or integrate experimental weapons faster than any other military on Earth. The weapons integration capabilities were equally revolutionary. Israeli F-35s could carry Python 5 air-to-air missiles and Spice precision-guided bombs internally. These weapons were specifically designed for Middle Eastern threats and provided capabilities that no other F-35 operator possessed. American officials realized they had created something beyond their control. Israeli F-35s were becoming more advanced than American aircraft. The forbidden modifications were working too well. But the real shock came in May 2018, when Israel announced something that changed military history forever. Their F-35s had conducted the world's first combat missions, striking targets in Syria with complete success. No other country had dared use F-35s in actual combat, but Israel proved their forbidden modifications worked perfectly under fire. The proof came with photographs that made headlines worldwide. Israeli F-35s flying over Beirut in broad daylight, completely undetected by advanced air defense systems. Enemy radars couldn't see them. Surface-to-air missiles couldn't lock onto them. They were military ghosts. Iranian generals couldn't believe their intelligence reports. Their most advanced Russian-made air defense systems, worth billions of dollars, were completely useless against modified Israeli F-35s. Decades of defensive planning became worthless overnight. The strategic implications were staggering. Iran could no longer hide behind distance and air defenses. Every nuclear facility, every military base, every strategic target was now vulnerable to Israeli strikes. The regional balance of power had shifted permanently. Russian military analysts were equally shocked. Their S-300 and S-400 systems, considered the world's most advanced air defenses, couldn't detect or engage Israeli F-35s. Billions of dollars in Russian military exports suddenly looked obsolete. In 2022, Israel made an announcement that sent shockwaves through military circles worldwide. Their F-35I fleet could now reach Iran without aerial refueling. The forbidden modifications had achieved the impossible. They had doubled the aircraft's operational range while maintaining full stealth capabilities. The validation came in June 2025 during Operation Rising Lion. Israeli F-35s flew 1,500 kilometers into Iranian territory, struck multiple high-value targets, and returned home without a single aerial refueling. 2 U.S. officials confirmed that Israel had used their forbidden fuel system modifications to enable these impossible missions. Iranian state media claimed they shot down several Israeli F-35s. Israeli defense forces immediately denied these claims. Satellite imagery later confirmed that Iranian air defenses had been completely ineffective. The forbidden modifications had worked flawlessly against the world's most advanced threats. The success was so complete that America completely reversed its position. The same Pentagon officials who had called Israeli modifications forbidden and too risky suddenly wanted to copy them. The U.S. Air Force requested $432 million in their 2026 budget to develop similar capabilities for American F-35s. The forbidden upgrades that America had tried to ban were now being adopted by American forces. Israeli innovations were being integrated into the global F-35 program. The modifications that were once too dangerous were now considered essential, but the changes went far beyond technical specifications. Israel had proven that military innovation thrives when countries are allowed to adapt platforms to their specific needs. The one-size-fits-all approach was dead. Customization was the future. Other F-35 operators immediately demanded their own modifications. The standard aircraft that America had insisted was perfect for everyone suddenly looked inadequate. Countries wanted Israeli-style upgrades for their own strategic challenges. The industrial impact was equally dramatic. Israeli companies became essential partners in global F-35 production. Israel Aerospace Industries produces wing components for every F-35 built. Elbit Systems manufactures helmet displays used by pilots worldwide. The forbidden modifications had made Israeli companies indispensable. Lockheed Martin committed to purchasing $4 billion in parts and systems from Israeli companies. The forbidden partnership that Pentagon officials had feared was now generating massive profits for American defense contractors. The performance statistics tell the complete story. Israeli F-35s maintain an 85% mission-ready rate, significantly higher than American aircraft. They've completed over 15,000 combat flight hours with 0 losses. The forbidden modifications didn't just work, they exceeded every performance target. Today, Israel operates 36 F-35s across 3 squadrons with orders for 75 total aircraft. Each aircraft represents capabilities that no other military possesses. They are living proof that sometimes breaking the rules creates breakthrough innovation. The forbidden F-35 upgrade changed everything about modern warfare. It proved that stealth and range could coexist. It demonstrated that allies could improve American weapons beyond American capabilities. It showed that innovation requires risk-taking that bureaucrats will always oppose. Most importantly, it changed the strategic balance in the world's most dangerous region. Iran's nuclear ambitions now face a threat they cannot counter. Russian air defense systems have been exposed as inadequate. America's military partnerships have been transformed from sales relationships to true collaborations. The forbidden upgrade that terrified Pentagon officials has become the model for military innovation worldwide. Israel didn't just modify an aircraft, they changed how the world thinks about defense technology forever. And thanks for joining us on this incredible journey through military history's most forbidden upgrade. If this story amazed you, hit that like button and subscribe for more shocking defense technology revelations. The truth about military innovation is always more incredible than fiction. Right now, America's F-35 fleet sits grounded more than half the time. Billion-dollar fighters that can't fly. Meanwhile, Israel's F-35s maintain a 90% mission-ready rate while flying combat missions that Pentagon planners said were impossible. Same aircraft, completely different results. Today, we're revealing why Israeli F-35s are genuinely more dangerous than America's own stealth fighters, and why the United States is now desperately trying to copy Israel's modifications. The numbers are shocking, and they're real. In fiscal year 2024, the United States Air Force F-35A fleet achieved only a 51.5% mission-capable rate. That means on any given day, nearly half of America's most advanced fighters cannot perform their mission. These aren't old planes. These are the newest aircraft in the American arsenal. and they're spending more time in maintenance hangars than in the sky. In stark contrast, Israel maintains 35 of its 39 F-35 or Adir aircraft in mission-ready status, an impressive 90% readiness rate that has been sustained even during high-intensity combat operations. Let that sink in. Israel's F-35s are ready to fight 9 days out of 10. America's F-35s are ready 5 days out of 10. This isn't a minor difference. This is a fundamental gap in capability that reveals something extraordinary about Israeli modifications to the F-35 platform. The story starts with understanding that Israel operates something unique. The Israeli F-35 IR Adir is a uniquely modified version of the F-35A, tailored to meet Israeli Air Force requirements. Unlike standard F-35s, the Adir features advanced Israeli-developed electronic warfare, C4I systems, and custom weapons integration. If you think Israel's F-35 modifications are impressive, type YES in the comments below. But let's be specific about what makes these modifications so dangerous. First, the electronic warfare system. Every F-35 comes equipped with the BAE Systems AN/ASQ 239 electronic warfare suite. It's good technology, designed to detect and counter threats. But Israel took it further. Israel has been given the go-ahead to modify BAE Systems' electronic warfare suite with a unique alternative, tailor-made to Israeli specifications. This wasn't just a tweak. Israel replaced entire components with their own Elbit Systems technology specifically designed to defeat Russian-made air defense systems deployed throughout the Middle East. The results speak for themselves in combat. On 22 May 2018, Israel's Air Force commander, Major General Amikam Norkin, reported that Israel became the first country in the world to use the F-35 in combat during recent clashes with Iran in Syria. While American F-35s were still working through technical problems, Israeli F-35s were already conducting combat missions in one of the most dangerous airspace environments on Earth. The combat record continues growing. On the 15th of March 2021, Israeli F-35I fighters were scrambled to intercept and destroy 2 Iranian Shahed 197 drones in regional airspace, scoring the first shot down for the F-35 in the world. Then on 23 October 2023, an Israeli F-35I shot down a cruise missile launched toward Israel by the Houthis, scoring the first shoot-down of a missile by F-35 globally. These aren't theoretical capabilities. These are real combat achievements that no other F-35 operator, including the United States, has matched. The fuel system modifications represent another massive advantage. Standard American F-35s have a combat radius of approximately 670 nautical miles. That's about 770 miles. For many missions, this requires vulnerable aerial refueling tankers that enemy missiles can easily target. Israel solved this problem with revolutionary engineering. They utilized 2 types of fuel tanks: a 425-gallon external fuel tank made by Israel's Elbit Systems, which is suspended under the wings and ejected before entering enemy territory, and an 800-gallon conformal tank, developed in collaboration with Israel Aerospace Industries and Lockheed Martin, which is installed next to the fuselage without compromising its stealth profile. These modifications enabled missions that stunned American military planners. Over 12 days in June 2025, Israel launched more than 1,500 sorties against Iran. Sorties averaged about 1,000 miles one way, and, at least in one case, stretched to 1,400 miles to bomb an Iranian Air Force aerial refueling tanker at Mashhad Airport. The F-35 features conformal fuel tanks enabling 1,700-plus kilometer missions without aerial refueling, electronic warfare systems specifically designed to counter Russian S-400 and Iranian air defense systems, and enhanced C4I integration with Israeli intelligence networks. American F-35s cannot do this. They lack the range modifications that Israel developed. When American pilots need to fly deep strike missions, they depend on aerial refueling, which compromises stealth and creates vulnerable targets for enemy missiles. The maintenance approach reveals another critical difference. American F-35s rely on a centralized logistics system managed by Lockheed Martin. When parts are needed, they must go through complex procurement channels that cause delays. When major maintenance is required, aircraft often sit waiting for contractor support. Israel took a different approach. They negotiated the ability to perform all maintenance domestically at Nevatim Air Base. Israeli technicians handle everything from routine inspections to major overhauls without waiting for American contractors. This independence dramatically improves aircraft availability. Under Secretary of Defense for Acquisition and Sustainment, William LaPlante noted regarding Israel, "We see surging sustainment support in operations that maximizes fleet readiness, with 35 of 39 Israeli Air Force F-35A aircraft and exceeds expectations in combat." He characterized this as exemplifying best practices for incorporating allies and partners. The combat experience gap is enormous. Israeli F-35I aircraft have conducted the most extensive combat operations of any F-35 variant worldwide, accumulating verified combat experience against sophisticated threats that no other nation has encountered. The October 2024 Operation Days of Repentance demonstrated decisive strategic impact, with Israeli aircraft penetrating Iranian airspace to conduct precision strikes against 20-plus military targets, including S-300 air defense batteries and missile production facilities. American F-35s have seen limited combat exposure. They've flown some missions in permissive environments, but nothing approaching the intensity and danger of Israeli operation. This combat experience feeds directly into improvements and modifications that make Israeli F-35s more effective. The weapons integration capabilities provide yet another advantage. Rafael Advanced Defense Systems integrated cutting-edge Israeli weapons, including Python 5 air-to-air missiles with dual wave-band infrared seekers, Spice precision-guided munitions with standoff ranges up to 62 miles, and specialized 1-ton penetration bombs designed for internal carriage. American F-35s carry American weapons. Israeli F-35s carry weapons specifically designed for Middle Eastern combat scenarios. This includes missiles optimized for defeating specific threat systems and bombs designed to penetrate hardened underground facilities. Israel even pioneered new operational concepts. The Israeli Air Force announced that the Israeli Adir aircraft is the only aircraft in the world that has carried out operational strikes with an external armament configuration, the so-called beast mode, where weapons are carried externally for maximum payload. This capability allows Israeli F-35s to adapt to different threat environments. When facing minimal air defenses, they can carry massive external weapon loads. When facing sophisticated defenses, they operate in full stealth mode with internal weapons only. The American F-35 program has struggled with persistent readiness problems. The mission-capable rate for the F-35A held steady at 51.5% in fiscal 2024. This represents a dramatic decline from earlier years. The GAC noted that the F-35A mission-capable rate peaked in 2020 at 71.4%, then declined to 68.8% in 2021, 56% in 2022, 2022, and 51.9% in 2023. The problems are systemic. Readiness challenges include a heavy reliance on contractors, inadequate training, lack of technical data, lack of spare parts, and lack of support equipment. The F-35 Joint Program Office launched what they called a war on readiness to address these issues, but progress has been minimal. Meanwhile, Israel's F-35s keep flying combat missions with remarkable reliability. Since the outbreak of the latest war in the Middle East in October 2023, Israeli F-35s have flown more than 15,000 operational flight hours, taking part in thousands of sorties in all theaters. The cost implications are significant. While exact figures for Israeli F-35I operations aren't publicly available for recent years, their high readiness rates suggest more efficient operations. American F-35s cost taxpayers billions in maintenance while sitting grounded. Israeli F-35s fly missions and accomplish objectives. The strategic implications extend globally. Pentagon officials note Israeli F-35I operations provide critical lessons for U.S. Pacific strategy, particularly regarding sustained operations in contested environments and integration of allied technologies. America now recognizes the value of Israeli innovations. After initially resisting Israeli modifications, the United States is now copying them. The U.S. Air Force requested substantial funding in their 2026 budget to develop similar range extension capabilities for American F-35s. directly inspired by Israeli success. The combat validation is undeniable. Recent combat operations demonstrate sophisticated coordination protocols, including sequential seed operations, where F-35I aircraft neutralize air defense systems before F-15I strikes, parallel intelligence gathering missions with real-time data sharing, and innovative beast mode operations where F-35I aircraft operate with external weapons when air defenses are suppressed. This multi-platform integration approach represents a revolution in air warfare. Israeli F-35s function as airborne command centers, gathering intelligence and coordinating strikes by other aircraft. American F-35s have the basic technology for this, but lack the combat experience and specialized training that Israeli pilots have developed through hundreds of real combat missions. The maintenance independence provides another layer of strategic advantage. When American F-35s need parts or technical support, they depend on a global supply chain that can be disrupted. Israeli F-35s operate independently with domestic maintenance capabilities that ensure availability even during intense combat operations. The electronic warfare superiority is perhaps most critical. Israeli modifications specifically target Russian and Iranian air defense systems. These modifications have been proven in combat against the most advanced threats. American F-35s have standard electronic warfare systems that are good, but haven't been tested against the same level of opposition. The operational flexibility Israeli F-35s possess is unmatched. They can fly extremely long-range missions without refueling. They can carry massive external weapon loads when needed. They can operate in full stealth mode when required. They integrate seamlessly with Israeli intelligence networks and other aircraft. American F-35s have more limitations in each of these areas. Looking at the bigger picture, Israel has fundamentally transformed the F-35 platform into something more capable than what America operates. This happened through a combination of innovative modifications, independent maintenance capabilities, extensive combat experience, and specialized training. The irony is striking. America designed and built the F-35. American taxpayers funded its development with over $1.7 trillion. Yet Israel, operating a small fraction of the total F-35 fleet, has created a more effective fighting force with these aircraft than America has achieved. This doesn't diminish American engineering excellence. The basic F-35 platform is extraordinary. But Israel's approach to operating and modifying these aircraft has unlocked capabilities that the American military is only now beginning to understand. The future implications are significant. As other nations observe Israeli success, they'll demand similar modification rights for their F-35s. The era of standardized one-size-fits-all fighters is ending. Countries want aircraft tailored to their specific threats and operational requirements, just like Israel achieved with the F-35 Tirn Adir. For America, the lesson is clear. Technical superiority alone isn't enough. Operational excellence, combat experience, maintenance efficiency, and willingness to innovate all matter just as much. Israel has demonstrated all of these qualities with their F-35 fleet, creating fighters that are genuinely more dangerous than America's own F-35s. The numbers don't lie. 90% readiness versus 51% readiness. Thousands of combat sorties versus limited operational experience. Proven long-range strike capabilities versus dependence on vulnerable tankers. Israeli modifications versus American standardization. In every measurable category, Israeli F-35s outperform American F-35s. This represents both a challenge and an opportunity for the United States. The challenge is acknowledging that an ally has surpassed American capabilities with American-designed aircraft. The opportunity is learning from Israeli innovations and applying them to improve American F-35 operation. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into why Israeli F-35s are more dangerous than America's. If you found these facts eye-opening, hit that like button and subscribe for more insights into cutting-edge military technology. The truth about modern air power is always more fascinating than fiction. September 2019. Israeli F-35s flew deep into Syrian airspace, hundreds of kilometers over territory, protected by Russia's most advanced S-400 air defense systems. The missiles never fired, the radars never locked. Russian commanders watched helplessly as Israeli stealth fighters struck Iranian targets and disappeared. Moscow had deployed these billion-dollar systems specifically to stop Israeli aircraft. They failed completely. Today, we're revealing the secret Israeli F-35 upgrades that caught Russia completely off guard and changed the balance of power in the Middle East forever. The story begins with Russia's confidence in its air defense technology. For decades, Russian S-300 and S-400 systems represented the pinnacle of anti-aircraft warfare. These weren't ordinary missiles. They were sophisticated networks designed to detect, track, and destroy enemy aircraft at ranges exceeding 250 miles. Russia deployed these systems throughout Syria starting in 2018, creating overlapping zones of coverage that should have made Israeli airstrikes impossible. Moscow publicly announced that any aircraft entering Syrian airspace would be detected and engaged. Russian military officials were confident their technology could counter even America's most advanced stealth fighters. They were wrong. On 22 May 2018, Israeli Air Force Commander Major General Amikam Norkin made an announcement that shocked military experts worldwide. Israel had become the first country in the world to use the F-35 in combat during recent clashes with Iran and Syria. While other nations were still testing their F-35s, Israel was already flying combat missions in one of the most dangerous airspace environments on Earth. But what happened next stunned Russia even more. The Israeli news outlet NZIV, citing multiple military sources, published the flight route of Israeli stealth fighters that struck eastern Syria. The F-35 has not only entered Syrian airspace, but flew for almost several hundred kilometers over areas covered by Russian S-400 and Syrian S-300 air defense systems. The Russian systems didn't detect them. The missiles never launched. Russian fighters didn't even attempt to intercept. This represented a catastrophic failure of Russia's most advanced military technology. If you're impressed by Israeli military innovation, type YES in the comments below. Moscow immediately understood they faced something unprecedented. Israeli F-35s possessed capabilities that Russian intelligence hadn't anticipated. The question consuming Russian military planners was simple: how did Israel do it? The answer lay in modifications that Israel had been developing in absolute secrecy. Israel has been given the go-ahead to modify BAE Systems' electronic warfare suite with a unique alternative, tailor-made to Israeli specifications. This wasn't a minor upgrade. Israel had replaced core electronic warfare components with technology specifically designed to defeat Russian air defense systems. The modifications centered on electronic warfare capabilities that no other F-35 operator possesses. Israel secured unprecedented approval to replace the standard BAE Systems electronic warfare suite with Elbit Systems' indigenous technology, creating a plug-and-play architecture that allows integration of Israeli weapons and sensors without compromising stealth characteristics. These weren't theoretical capabilities, they were proven in combat against the exact systems Russia considered invulnerable. The F-35I features unique Middle Eastern operational optimizations, including electronic warfare systems specifically designed to counter Russian S-400 and Iranian air defense systems. Russia's response revealed their concern. In 2018, Moscow deployed Su-57 fifth-generation fighters to Syria with one specific mission. Russian officials stated that the time their Su-57 aircraft spent in Syria allowed them to get additional information on the Su-57's ability to detect using communication systems, US F-22 and F-35 aircraft operating in the same airspace. Israel's F-35s were also operating in Syrian airspace during this period. Russia was desperately trying to collect intelligence on Israeli F-35 signatures. They deployed their most advanced fighters, activated every radar system, and monitored Israeli operations constantly. But Israeli F-35s continued flying missions with impunity. The combat record speaks for itself. Israeli F-35I aircraft have conducted the most extensive combat operations of any F-35 variant worldwide, accumulating verified combat experience against sophisticated threats that no other nation has encountered. With zero combat losses across all theaters, the F-35I maintains mission success rates that far exceed standard F-35 operations. Russia's frustration grew as Israeli strikes continued. In 2019, Russia reportedly allowed Syria to bring the S-300 to full combat readiness and attack Israeli aircraft in the event of the slightest threat. Information regarding this appeared a day after Israeli F-35 fighter jets struck targets in Syria, completely ignoring Moscow's position on the issue. The S-300 systems never successfully engaged Israeli F-35s, Despite permission to fire, despite full combat readiness, the Russian-made systems couldn't effectively target Israeli stealth fighters. The strategic implications were devastating for Russia. Countries worldwide had purchased Russian air defense systems based on Moscow's claims of superiority. Turkey spent over $1 billion on S-400 systems. Iran invested $800 million in S-300 systems. Syria received these systems as military aid. All were promised protection against aerial threats. Israeli F-35s proved these promises were empty. The October 2024 Operation Days of Repentance demonstrated this conclusively. Israeli aircraft penetrated Iranian airspace to conduct precision strikes against 20-plus military targets, including S-300 air defense batteries and missile production facilities. Satellite imagery confirmed destruction of multiple S-300 engagement radars, validating the F-35I's ability to defeat advanced Russian air defense technology through combination of stealth characteristics and Israeli electronic warfare modification. The operation involved over 100 aircraft, conducting a 2,000-kilometer round-trip mission that successfully neutralized Iranian air defenses while maintaining perfect operational safety records. Russia couldn't protect its own equipment. The S-300 systems that Moscow had sold to Iran for hundreds of millions of dollars were destroyed by aircraft that Russian radars couldn't effectively track. This represented a catastrophic blow to Russian arms export credibility. The secret behind Israeli success involved multiple layers of technological sophistication. First, the stealth characteristics of the F-35 platform itself. The aircraft's shape, radar-absorbing materials, and internal weapons bays provide baseline stealth that reduces radar cross-section dramatically. But Israel added capabilities that transformed the F-35 from stealthy to nearly invisible. The Israeli electronic warfare modifications don't just reduce radar signature, they actively deceive and confuse enemy radar systems. These systems can jam hostile radars, create false targets, and disrupt communications between radar stations and missile batteries. The plug-and-play architecture means Israel can update their electronic warfare systems rapidly as new threats emerge. When Russia deploys new radar frequencies or changes their detection algorithms, Israeli technicians can develop countermeasures and upload them to F-35s quickly. This adaptability gives Israel a permanent advantage in the electronic warfare arms race. Israeli F-35s also carry weapons specifically designed for their operational environment. Rafael Advanced Defense Systems integrated cutting-edge Israeli weapons including Python 5 air-to-air missiles with dual waveband infrared seekers, Spice precision-guided munitions with standoff ranges up to 62 miles, and specialized one-ton penetration bombs designed for internal carriage. These weapons allow Israeli F-35s to strike from beyond the effective range of many air defense systems. By the time Russian radars detect weapon launches, Israeli aircraft are already leaving the area at supersonic speeds. The fuel system modifications added another dimension Russia didn't anticipate. The F-35I features conformal fuel tanks, enabling 1,700-plus kilometer missions without aerial refueling. This means Israeli F-35s can penetrate deep into enemy territory, conduct strikes, and return home without vulnerable tanker aircraft that Russian missiles could target. In June 2025, this capability was proven decisively. Over 12 days, Israel launched more than 1,500 sorties against Iran. Sorties averaged about 1,000 miles one way, and at least in one case, stretched to 1,400 miles. Israeli F-35s flew these missions over Turkey, Jordan, Syria, and Iraq without being detected by Russian air defense networks deployed throughout the region. Russia's military prestige suffered enormously. For decades, Moscow had marketed its air defense systems as the most capable in the world. Russian officials claimed their radars could detect stealth aircraft. They promised customers that S-300 and S-400 systems would provide impenetrable protection. Israeli F-35s shattered these claims. In combat after combat, Russian systems failed to detect, track, or engage Israeli stealth fighters. Countries that had purchased Russian equipment began questioning their investments. Turkey, despite spending billions on S-400 systems, saw them proven ineffective against the very threats they were designed to counter. The diplomatic fallout was equally significant. Russia had positioned itself as Syria's protector, deploying substantial military forces to support the Assad regime. Yet Russia couldn't prevent Israeli aircraft from striking Iranian targets inside Syria whenever Israel chose. Russian air defense systems sat inactive, while Israeli F-35s flew overhead. Moscow tried various countermeasures. They deployed electronic warfare systems designed to jam GPS and communications. They activated powerful radar systems that could theoretically detect stealth aircraft. They coordinated Syrian, Iranian, and Russian air defenses into integrated networks. Nothing worked effectively against Israeli F-35s. The Israeli modifications proved too sophisticated, too adaptive, and too thoroughly tested in combat. Every Russian countermeasure was analyzed, understood, and defeated by Israeli electronic warfare technology. There were concerns that Russian involvement in the Syrian civil war allowed the country to gather true radar cross-section data on Israeli F-35s. Russia deployed every intelligence-gathering asset available: Su-57 fighters, a 50 airborne early warning aircraft, ground-based radar systems, and electronic warfare platforms. Russian and Iranian forces collected data on F-35 operations for years. They studied flight patterns, analyzed electronic emissions, and attempted to map Israeli tactics. Yet this intelligence gathering didn't translate into effective countermeasures. Israeli F-35s continued operating with near-complete impunity. The combat statistics tell the complete story. Israeli F-35I aircraft achieved multiple historic firsts, including the world's first F-35 combat missions in Syria in 2018, first F-35 air-to-air kills against Iranian drones in 2021, and first operational use of external weapons configuration in combat. With zero combat losses across all theaters, the F-35I maintains 85% mission-capable rates, significantly exceeding U.S. fleet averages, while conducting sustained high-tempo operation. Russia achieved zero successful intercepts of Israeli F-35s despite deploying their most advanced systems, despite years of intelligence gathering, and despite coordinating with Syrian and Iranian forces. This represented an unprecedented failure of Russian military technology. The economic implications for Russia were severe. Russian arms exports, which had been valued at billions of dollars annually, plummeted after Israeli operations exposed weaknesses in Russian air defense systems. The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute documented that Russian arms exports declined dramatically, with foreign weapons buyers losing confidence in Russian technology. Countries that had considered purchasing Russian systems began reconsidering. Why spend hundreds of millions of dollars on air defenses that Israeli modifications had proven ineffective? Why trust Russian claims when combat results demonstrated otherwise? The technological gap continues widening. Israel constantly updates and improves their F-35 modifications based on combat experience. They've flown thousands of combat sorties, tested their systems against every Russian air defense platform deployed in the Middle East, and refined their electronic warfare capabilities to perfection. Russia, by contrast, has limited combat data on how to counter Israeli F-35 modification. Their air defense systems haven't successfully engaged these aircraft, so they lack crucial information about what works and what doesn't. Every Israeli mission provides Israel with more data, while Russia gains nothing. The strategic balance has shifted permanently. Israel now possesses the demonstrated capability to strike anywhere in the Middle East without effective opposition from Russian air defenses. This includes deep inside Iran, throughout Syria, and across any territory where Russian systems are deployed. Iran's acquisition of Russian electronic warfare systems, including the powerful Murmansk BN with operational ranges up to 5,000 kilometers, represents Russia's latest attempt to counter Israeli F-35s. These systems use massive amounts of electronic power to jam aircraft communications and navigation systems. Yet even these haven't stopped Israeli operation. Israeli F-35s continue flying combat missions, conducting strikes, and accomplishing objectives despite Russian electronic warfare efforts. The Israeli modifications have proven adaptable enough to operate effectively even in heavily jammed environments. The lesson for other nations is clear. Israeli F-35 modifications represent capabilities that Russia cannot counter with current technology. Years of Russian intelligence gathering, billions of dollars in air defense deployments, and extensive combat experience have failed to produce effective countermeasures. The secret wasn't just one modification or one technology. It was a comprehensive approach combining stealth, electronic warfare, advanced weapons, extended range, and combat-proven tactics. Israel created a complete system that defeats Russian air defenses through multiple overlapping advantages. Russia continues trying to develop countermeasures. They're upgrading radar systems, developing new electronic warfare capabilities, and studying every piece of intelligence they can gather on Israeli F-35 operations. But they're playing catch-up against an adversary that has years of combat experience and continues improving. The future implications extend globally. As other nations observe Israeli success against Russian system, demand for F-35s increases while confidence in Russian air defenses declines. This shifts the global balance of military power and undermines Russia's position as a major arms exporter. For Russia, the Israeli F-35 modifications represent a strategic defeat that continues compounding. Every successful Israeli mission further demonstrates Russian air defense inadequacies. Every destroyed S-300 system proves Russian technology can be defeated. Every combat sortie that Russian systems fail to intercept undermines Moscow's military credibility. The upgrades Russia didn't see coming have fundamentally altered Middle Eastern military dynamics. Israel demonstrated that properly modified F-35s can penetrate any Russian air defense network, strike any target, and return safely. This capability has been proven not once but hundreds of times across multiple combat theaters. Russian military planners now face uncomfortable questions. If Israeli modifications can defeat their most advanced systems, what does this mean for Russian air defenses worldwide? If years of intelligence gathering haven't produced effective countermeasures, what will? If combat experience hasn't revealed vulnerabilities to exploit, where do they go from here?
June 13th, 2025. Iranian air defense commanders watched their screens in disbelief. Multiple aircraft approaching, fast, low, but their radar showed nothing. Within hours, Iran's most protected nuclear facilities were in flames. Russia's prized S-300 systems destroyed without firing a single shot. The attacker? Not America, Israel, flying jets that Moscow and Tehran now fear more than any weapon in the U.S. arsenal. And here's what makes this even more alarming. Every military expert agrees these modified Israeli F-35s have become something the original designers never imagined. Today, we're breaking down exactly why Russia and Iran lose sleep over Israel's version of the F-35, while America's fleet doesn't cause the same panic. Let's get one thing straight from the start. The F-35 Lightning II is America's pride, a technological marvel that cost taxpayers billions. But when Israel got their hands on this stealth fighter, they did something nobody else has been allowed to do. They tore it apart and rebuilt it into something completely different. And that difference is costing Russia and Iran dearly. If you're already seeing where this is going, type yes in the comments below. Let's see how many of you caught on to what makes Israel's approach so dangerous. Here's what happened. While America keeps its F-35s mostly by the book, following standard procedures and international protocols, Israel took theirs and said, "We need this jet to do things no F-35 has ever done before." And they had a very specific enemy in mind, Iran, sitting roughly 1,000 miles away with nuclear ambitions and Russian-made defense systems. The Israeli Air Force knew their survival depended on one critical ability: reaching Tehran undetected and getting back home safely. Standard F-35s couldn't do that, so Israel convinced the United States to let them modify these jets in ways that break every rule in the book. The Israeli version is called the F-35I Adir. Adir means mighty one in Hebrew, and mighty it is. Israel replaced the entire electronic warfare system with their own technology built by Elbit Systems. Think about that. The most sophisticated stealth fighter in the world, and Israel said, "Thanks, but our system works better against the threats we face." They integrated their own weapons, Python 5 missiles, spice bombs with 62-mile range, even developed a special 1-ton bunker buster that fits inside the internal weapons bay. These modifications took years of negotiations with Washington, but Israel got what no other F-35 customer has received: complete freedom to customize. Now here's where it gets interesting for Russia and Iran. In October 2024, Israeli F-35s flew nearly 1,000 miles into Iranian territory. They hit military targets across Tehran. Iranian air defenses, equipped with Russian S-300 systems, never saw them coming. Every single Israeli jet returned home. 0 losses. Iran's military leaders couldn't believe it. Russia's defense industry was humiliated. Because here's the uncomfortable truth that Moscow doesn't want to admit. Their air defense systems, the ones they've been selling for billions to countries like Iran, Syria, and others, failed spectacularly against Israel's modified F-35s.
But wait, it gets worse for Tehran and Moscow. Let's talk about what happened in June 2025. Operation Rising Lion. Israel launched the largest F-35 combat operation in history. Over 100 aircraft struck Iran, with F-35I Adirs leading the assault. The mission? Destroy Iran's nuclear facilities and eliminate their air defenses permanently. The result? Israeli forces established complete air superiority over Iran in just days. Iranian commanders watched helplessly as their Russian S-300 batteries were systematically destroyed. The systems that were supposed to detect and shoot down stealth aircraft never got a lock. Iran's most advanced radar installations were taken out before they could react. Here's something that should worry Tehran even more. Israel proved they can hit Iran without needing to refuel. Think about the strategic nightmare this creates. Israel doesn't need permission to use anyone's airspace. They don't need to land at American bases in the Gulf. They modified their F-35s with extended fuel tanks that give them the range to fly round trips to Iran without aerial refueling. Multiple sources confirmed this capability after the June strikes. Israeli jets flew 2,000 kilometers, struck their targets, and came home, all while maintaining stealth characteristics. Now let's contrast this with American F-35s. The United States has the largest F-35 fleet in the world, over 1,000 aircraft delivered. But here's the critical difference. America hasn't used them this aggressively. American F-35s fly training missions. They participate in exercises. They deploy to bases around the world as deterrents. But they haven't penetrated deep into hostile territory against advanced air defenses and proven themselves in actual combat like Israel has. And this is exactly why Russia and Iran view the Israeli threat differently. Israel has combat experience that America simply doesn't have with this platform. Since 2018, Israeli F-35s have flown thousands of combat sorties. They've struck targets in Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, Yemen, and Iran itself. They shot down Iranian drones, intercepted cruise missiles, conducted surveillance missions deep in hostile territory. Every mission taught Israeli pilots something new about how to defeat Russian-made defense systems. Every strike refined their tactics. And they shared almost none of this intelligence with other F-35 operators. Israel keeps its operational secrets closely guarded. The psychological impact cannot be overstated. Iranian military commanders now know their airspace isn't safe. Russian generals understand their defense systems can't stop these jets. This creates a strategic vulnerability that goes beyond just military capability. It's about credibility. Russia has built its export business on selling air defense systems. Countries pay billions believing these systems will protect them. But Israel has proven repeatedly these systems fail against properly modified stealth aircraft flown by skilled pilots with excellent intelligence. What countries believed was going to give them a shock-proof system had completely failed them. This creates a major credibility crisis.
Let me give you some numbers that illustrate this problem. Iran's Air Force operates roughly 265 aircraft. Most are ancient American jets from before 1979 or outdated Russian planes. They have F-14 Tomcats, F-5 Tigers, and MiG-29s. Good jets in their time, but completely outmatched today. Iran has almost no modern fighters. Russia promised to deliver Su-35 fighters years ago. Those deliveries keep getting delayed. Even if Iran receives them, their fourth-generation jets facing fifth-generation Israeli stealth fighters. It's not even a fair fight. Israel operates approximately 50 F-35I Adirs across 3 squadrons. 50 jets! That's all it took to dominate Iranian airspace. Compare that to the massive fleets that Russia operates or the enormous American air power, and you realize something profound. It's not about quantity, it's about how you use the technology and whether you're willing to actually employ it in combat. Here's another factor that terrifies Tehran and Moscow. Israel maintains complete operational independence with their F-35s. They perform all maintenance domestically. They don't need American approval for specific missions. They don't require Lockheed Martin technicians on site for repairs. Israeli engineers understand these jets inside and out because they modified them. This independence means Israel can launch strikes whenever their leadership decides it's necessary without consulting Washington or worrying about supply chain issues. The United States Air Force recently announced they want to study Israeli modifications. American military planners recognized that Israel solved a critical problem, extending the F-35's range without compromising stealth. This matters enormously for potential conflicts in the Pacific against China. American carriers need fighters that can operate across vast distances. Israel proved it's possible. So now, the Pentagon wants to incorporate Israeli innovations into American F-35s. Think about that reversal. Usually, America develops technology and allies adopt it. Here, Israel pioneered solutions that America is now copying. Russia's response to all this has been telling. They can't counter the F-35. Russian fifth-generation fighters like the Su-57 exist mostly on paper. Production has been plagued by delays and sanctions. Russia operates maybe a dozen Su-57s total. Meanwhile, Israel, a country smaller than New Jersey, has a larger fleet of fifth-generation fighters. So instead of competing militarily, Russia turned to information warfare. Russian influence networks spread disinformation about F-35 capabilities. Fake videos showing F-35s being shot down went viral. One video claiming to show an Israeli F-35 crash gained 21 million views before being exposed as footage from a video game. Why? Because Russia can't admit their defense systems failed. Acknowledging that their S-300 and S-400 systems can't stop Israeli F-35s would destroy their export market. Iran faces an even darker reality. Their nuclear program is their regime's top priority. They've invested decades and billions developing nuclear capabilities. Israel has now demonstrated they can strike those facilities at will. Iranian leaders understand that their Russian air defenses won't stop Israeli jets. Their aging air force can't intercept them. Their radar systems can't track them effectively. Tehran has no good military options. They can fire ballistic missiles and drones at Israel, which Israeli air defenses largely shoot down, but they cannot prevent Israeli aircraft from reaching Iranian territory.
Here's what makes this truly alarming for Tehran and Moscow. Prime Minister Netanyahu stood in front of an F-35 and declared that Israel can reach Iran, but Iran cannot reach Israel undetected. That wasn't a threat, that was a fact, proven by actual combat missions. Israeli F-35s have penetrated Iranian airspace multiple times and returned safely every time. The ripple effects are spreading across the region. Turkey purchased Russian S-400 systems instead of F-35s. Now watching how Israeli jets demolished Iranian S-300s, Turkish planners might be reconsidering that choice. Saudi Arabia and the UAE are taking notes. They're seeing what real air superiority looks like and questioning their own defense strategies. American military commanders are learning valuable lessons too. Israel proved that stealth actually works against modern threats in real combat, not just simulations. They showed that smart modifications can extend range without sacrificing stealth. Most importantly, they demonstrated that decisive action with superior technology accomplishes what deterrence alone cannot. Our American forces remain the most powerful in the world, and this partnership between the U.S. and Israel strengthens both nations. When allied democracies share technology and expertise, they create capabilities that adversaries simply cannot match. The difference in approach is revealing. America uses its F-35s to maintain global stability and support allies worldwide. This requires careful diplomacy and measured responses. Israel faces a different reality. Their neighbors openly threaten their existence. So Israeli military doctrine focuses on preemptive strikes and technological superiority. When they see a developing threat, they act immediately. This explains why Israeli F-35s have extensive combat experience despite America having 10 times more aircraft. Looking forward, Israel plans to operate 75 F-35Is by 2030, with the latest TR-3 and Block 4 upgrades making them even more capable. Iranian and Russian planners have no answers. Russia cannot provide defense systems that stop F-35s because they don't possess such technology themselves. Iran cannot develop alternatives because their aerospace industry is decades behind. They're stuck in a strategic trap with no escape. Here's the fundamental truth. Technology alone doesn't win battles. How you customize that technology, how you use it, and whether you're actually willing to deploy it in combat makes all the difference. Israel transformed an American stealth fighter into something perfectly matched to their needs. They didn't just buy jets off the shelf. They spent years creating a superior variant, then proved it works by striking the most defended targets in the Middle East. Russia and Iran fear Israeli F-35s more than American ones for one simple reason. Israeli jets have already hit them. The threat isn't hypothetical. It's real and proven. Iranian commanders watched their facilities burn. Russian defense contractors watched their systems fail. That creates genuine fear that no amount of American deterrence can replicate, because deterrence is about future threats. Israel has already shown what they can do, and everyone knows they'll do it again when necessary. The bottom line is simple. Israeli F-35I Adirs have proven what they can do in actual combat. They've struck deep into enemy territory and returned home safely every time. That's why Russia and Iran view them as a more immediate threat than America's larger fleet. It's not about numbers. It's about demonstrated capability and the willingness to use it. Israeli pilots continue flying these missions, gathering intelligence and staying ready. Because when your nation's survival depends on technological superiority, you make sure you have the best tools for the job. And right now, that's exactly what Israel has. If this opened your eyes to something new, hit that like button and subscribe. We'll keep bringing you the real story behind modern military technology and what it means for global security.